Business owners, you are setting your marketing company up to fail. Yes, you heard me correctly. It's no surprise to any of us that over the past couple of years, there's been a massive industry shift focused from residential moving into commercial and large loss. And here's the reality. You tell them that's your goal, and then you expect them to be able to use the exact same tactics. That is just not feasible. The reality is the value propositions and the reasoning behind why someone would choose your business over another are very different when you're looking at a commercial customer versus a residential customer. In order to take the next massive leap forward into the commercial space, you actually have to start first by taking a step back. Deep dive into your brand positioning. And when you hone in on those things, that's truly what changes your strategic approach to that new large loss sector. I'm Amanda, and for the past 10 years, I have been working alongside businesses just like yours to help them strategically look at their brand positioning as it relates to their ideal customer and dive deep into their brand so that they can approach that brand new market with massive success. A deep dive into your brand directly equates to large growth that's aimed strategically at breaking the barrier into the commercial space, winning your new ideal customer, and growing like never before. To learn more, book a no commitment discovery call to learn a little bit more about how this process works. In fact, we guarantee that this process will be so transformative to the success of your business as you approach this new market that we guarantee within the first 30 days, you will experience a brand clarity that you have never seen before, or we'll give you your money back. And this isn't just a guarantee. It is a promise that I stand behind and that you can start today. Stand out in your market. Approach your new goals with ease as you position your brand to conquer your new sector, reach your ideal commercial customer.
Only unique thing about your business has to come from you. We are truly a commodity business. We all suck water, we all dry, etc. We all do the things that the restoration firms are supposed to do. And that can't be part of your deliverables if you want to be a standout company. Your deliverable has to start with your why. Get down to the core, again, talking about identity and confidence and things. You get down to the identity of what your company is and use your why to find your path, because the only unique thing about your business has to come from you. Figure out why you show up every single day. And outside of if we stripped away your services, if we stripped away your marketing plan and your deliverables, what is left with your company that nobody else has? When you win the hearts of people through just being like, this is what we're known for, nobody can take that from you.
Could you accurately tell me right now your company's ROI on your digital marketing? At this time of year, you're probably spending countless hours gathering data, compiling spreadsheets, and doing manual calculations. A ton of time wasted producing an ROI result with less visibility. But what if there was a better way? Our team is revolutionizing the way that you calculate your ROI with our brand new tool, Leads to Jobs. Our system connects to your company's CRM or job management system, matching leads gained through digital marketing directly to actual job data, calculating your close rate and precise return. And then this information is emailed to you weekly for year-round visibility. No other tool on the market offers such a transformative look at your business's performance. Transparent results, greater returns.
I'm from Central Florida. There's a lot of restoration companies out there. How do you separate yourself from everyone that can show up with a truck? And a lot of the ways of doing it is visibility. It's being able to connect to the people, treat them like it's your grandmother's house, and really kind of drive that customer service while also just being clear, honest, and open with exactly what we're doing and how. And even if they don't like the answers you're getting sometimes, the fact that you're being honest and transparent with them really goes a long way.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to dive into this topic and chat a little bit more today. So this is our, oh gosh, I don't know, like 5th or 6th webinar. I'll admit we skipped the month of December because it felt very chaotic. I don't know about you, Alex, but I felt super chaotic in December.
December was a month of chaos and a lot of learning. Just to get ahead of things, you'll have to excuse my voice. It's not Google penalizing us or anything. Apparently my throat didn't get the message about our webinar today.
Oh, yeah. I thought your voice sounded a little bit lower than normal today.
I hope it normally sounds better.
Well, hopefully it'll slowly feel better over time. It'll get the cool energy of our webinar and your voice will be like, hey, it's time to perk back up. Well, to everyone who's joining us, welcome. As I've already said, we're super excited to have you here. Today, as you can see, we're going to be talking a little bit about marketing in 2026. And I want to give kind of a heads up that today's webinar is not about chasing wins. It's not about hacks or beating Google. The goal of today is to leave you feeling calmer and not more overwhelmed kind of going into this year. This is based on conversations that we are having, it feels like every single day. In fact, we had a few meetings this morning, and I think in both of those meetings, right, Alex, I was like, hey, you should come to the webinar that we're having today because this will address some of those things, right? I think
it was a perfect fit.
It was a perfect fit. So before we dive in, we'll introduce these faces that you've got on the screen here so that you can get to know us a little bit better. Alex, do you think your voice can handle giving yourself an intro?
I mean, it's really up to the people. I hope they can suffer through it with me. But really, I am a new member here at Virtual Vision. I'm extremely fortunate to be joining the team. I come from the restoration space and the trades. And as of December, I joined as a business development representative. So if ever you have questions, you'd like to dive deeper into things, I would be one of your main points of contact, and I'd look forward to having a conversation with you.
Love it. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, he's been an awesome addition to our team. My name is Amanda. For those of you who might be joining who don't know me, this is a conversation that I love to have as the CEO, head of sales here at Virtual Vision. I've been in marketing now for almost 16 years, been at Virtual Vision for 5, and am super honored in the way that we get to walk alongside customers and just sort of help answer questions. I think why I'm passionate about today's topic and just these webinars in general is because I think marketing just tends to kind of get lumped in like with this thing that we all want to understand. And there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and myths about. And so I think it's always really important that when we have the opportunity as professionals to approach the space out of a heart of education and just making sure we're all kind of on the same playing field, answering questions, I think those are really important things. So that's kind of where we are headed today. So let me give a quick intro to who, if you are unfamiliar with Virtual Vision. I know we've got some current clients on the call today. We've got some people that we don't currently work with, and that's okay. We welcome everyone to this space. As a quick intro to Virtual Vision, so we are kind of a one-stop shop marketing company that we aim to be a trusted partner for our customers. As I said, a lot of marketing, there tends to just be kind of a feeling of distrust towards, and more than anything, I think it's important just to have someone in your corner that you trust. So we work with probably 80% home service businesses in the restoration, plumbing, roofing, HVAC space, any of those types of things. And then probably the other 20% of our business is more central Wisconsin, where most of us are located. Prior to COVID, we did have an office here, but we've expanded our reach. And so we do have people across the nation now as we all work a little bit more remote now. We handle website development, SEO, paid ads, leads, reporting. Like I said, one-stop shop. We actually just pulled these numbers and I had to share them because I just felt like it's a really cool opportunity to share the success of our team. So we've been in business now for about 30 years, working with hundreds of clients, with the goal of not only staying up to date with research and trends, but vouching for the things that we're seeing. And we just pulled the numbers from last year. We track how many leads we bring in for our customers. And last year we brought in over 25,000 qualified leads for our customers. So that's not just phone calls, that's leads that were qualified jobs to our customers. And of that 25.85, let's just round that to 26, 26% of our clients' work from last year was brought in through marketing efforts. So I think that just goes to show it's pretty typical. Most people maybe see, expect a very small single-digit percentage from marketing, but you can get quite a bit more when it's done well. So today we're going to be talking and sharing about what's actually working, what we've seen stop working, and kind of where we want to go from here. Alex, can you just quickly talk through some housekeeping items for today before we kind of dive in?
I'd be happy to. So please, by all means, use the chat and engage with us. We will do our best to answer your questions either in the chat or during this meeting, during this webinar, and we will have space for Q&A at the end.
Awesome. So high level, let's go ahead and roll. And as a note, I've got Alex. As you can see, I'm about to kick him off video, so you guys don't have to watch him since I'm going to be doing most of the speaking here. But Alex, jump in if you've got questions. But I have Hazel and Alex both helping here with questions and moderation that they'll bring at the end. Or, Alex, you can jump in if something comes up along the way. And again, we really, really value interaction in this. This is a conversation that's meant to be that way. I won't make Alex say as much as I'd probably like to make him say today because of your voice, but I get it. So,
it's really for their benefit, Amanda.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, Alex, I'll take you off stage now. Cool. All right, guys. So let's go ahead, and I want to just kind of start by diving into some of the key objectives that we're going to be covering today and essentially what this means for you. So we're going to be talking about some of the most recent Google updates and changes that have happened towards the end of last year that obviously affect us going into this year. We are going to be talking about AI search. I already see that there's questions about this in the chat. We knew that was coming. It's a big trend right now. So we're going to be talking about that. SEO trends, trust signals, optimization, and ultimately, what does this mean for you, either as a business owner, someone operating within marketing in the business, and the goals that you're putting into place? Which leads to the biggest question. That's kind of the overarching piece of our webinar today. Why does Google feel so different? If you feel like rankings don't behave the same way that they used to, you are not wrong. Search results now answer questions before users even get a click. We're seeing rises in zero-click searches because of AI answers and overviews. Fewer clicks, higher summaries. So AI overviews, SERPs, you're going to hear this word, search engine result pages, reducing traditional click behavior. Why does Google feel different? It is because it is. One of the big things we're hearing and seeing is that traffic is down, even when visibility necessarily isn't, because as you're seeing in these summaries and the AI answers, Google is delivering answers quicker before clicks even happen. There's a fundamental change of behavior in the way that search is happening. So visibility no longer is the same thing as traffic. So I want to start by taking a look at this graph. So this is an image that I pulled up, and it's kind of a cutesy way of looking at how did Google used to look versus how does it look now. So image on the left, this is kind of high level. Here's how Google used to be structured. You used to have it where you had the paid ads at the top, then you had the feature, then you had your what they called the top 10 blue links, so the organic links to the site. This is ultimately how most of us expect Google to behave, and we still operate on the expectation that this is what's happening. But now shift to that right-hand image. This is what's actually happening on Google now. We have a massive section of real estate taken up by AI summaries, featured snippets. Then you have paid, then you have local packs, then you have organic searches. These organic searches, as it relates to SEO, search engine optimization, didn't disappear. Rather, they moved. And our eyes are going to the top section of real estate where that visibility into results is happening earlier in the journey before a click has even happened after a search. So if rankings aren't behaving the same way, what is Google actually evaluating when we look at this? So Google has been super, super clear in some of their recent core updates. What they are not penalizing is specific SEO tactics. Rather, what they are penalizing and analyzing are site-wide patterns. Okay. And this all will ultimately result in how does all of this play into where we're showing up on those search results. So some of the things that they're looking at in these core updates, and this really happened quite a bit in the December 2025 updates. So as a quick note, Google rolls out lots and lots of updates per year. I'll reveal it when I'm done talking about this, but if you feel like playing with me, in the chat, throw out a quick number of how many updates you think, without searching, don't you dare search, without searching, how many updates do you think Google rolls out per year? I will tell you in a second. So a handful of the updates that Google rolls out each year are what are called core updates. These are things that do change the way that the algorithm processes search results. And it actually changes the way that you show up. Again, core updates. So of the total updates that Google releases, about 2 to 3 of these per year are called core updates. There's usually one in the spring. There's usually one, like mid-ish year, and then at some point towards the end of the year. Well, their last update rolled out in December 2026. I'm sorry, 2025. Wow. One of these days I'll get the thought on my correct on my end here. So how many updates actually happen? It's actually well over 4,500 updates per year. That's like 7 to 9 updates per day, which tells you that 90% of Google's updates you would absolutely never know anything about, but they are there, and some of them make a really big difference. Oh, hang on. I think I'm not sure what I did wrong here, but I got to go back to here we go. Okay. So in December 2025, when they rolled out their core update, these are some of the things that they looked at: site-wide quality, trust and credibility, and user experience patterns. So trust signals, things that show up repeatedly. When there's issues with these things, sites do struggle. And this is why there's no really quick fix anymore after a core update happens. So to give some visibility into this, this is a comparison to how SEO used to function as it relates to core updates. So Google used to analyze this based on individual page SEO. It took the content, the quality, the structure of a single page, and then decided how that page of your website would search based on this. Instead, now what Google has moved towards over the last 2 to 3 years is a whole site structure, quality, trust signal evaluation through the build out of your entire site. This is why you can't just optimize one page on your website for SEO and expect to have results, because every page plays into each other. It is an interconnected system. Today, Google is looking at your entire ecosystem: your website, your reviews, your brand mentions, your engagement. It's no longer the question of, is this page good? Google is asking the question, is this business credible? So there are lots of fantastic sources where this information is coming from. You can essentially think of today's presentation a little bit like a research study presentation, because not only are these things that we are hearing in our conversations, but we have lots of sources that have backed and looked at and studied what's happening. So one of these sources that you can that we talk to and attend and work with is Search Engine Journal. And they said in relation to core updates, specifically December's core updates, is that there's no longer one single fix for sites that are updated and affected by the core updates of Google. Quick fixes simply don't work anymore in SEO. And this quote matters because I want you to remove the panic. Is that if there is one thing that went down after a core update, it's not something you did wrong or something your marketing company did wrong. It's an adjustment to a new ecosystem. And recovery from that comes from consistency, not necessarily correction. If you use the old tactic of SEO strategy, and now with the change, you're seeing some penalties in your traffic and exposure and what have you, it might not be that something is wrong. It just means you need to now build back up that trust based on Google's new ecosystem. It is the result of a combined consistent intent and behavior that Google is analyzing here. Again, I want to invite you. I know I'm going to throw a lot of information at you, so engage in the chat. We've got Alex and Hazel in here, and I want to make sure that we have the option to bring these questions forward at any point as well. So where does this lead us? Here's the deal. SEO is not going away like many of us believe. Rather, ranking with SEO is no longer the goal. Its role instead is changing. So rankings are no longer defining the success of SEO. This comes directly from Search Engine Land. They did a whole study on SEO over the past year and found that SEO is not dead, but that a ranking number one doesn't equal success or leads necessarily anymore. Let's see. I do see a quick note. StreamYard is not working properly. Oh, I hope no one else is having that concern or that issue, but please let us know if you do find that. As a quick note, this is being recorded and we will send out a recording afterwards, just in case you do happen to miss parts of today. So SEO is now feeding not just traffic, but it's also feeding visibility, understanding, and trust of Google. It still matters, but your rankings from SEO don't necessarily immediately equal visibility. We're talking about SEO feeding authority, not just visibility. So to understand this shift, I want to show you again visually a way to look at kind of the old way SEO worked and then the new way. So here's kind of the old way. This is the model that we all think of with SEO that has worked for years and years and years. You rank, then you get traffic, and ultimately you think you're going to get a lead. Leads were abundant. Attention was quite a bit cheaper, and this is often the model that most of us still operate under. There's sort of this obsession with needing to be number one. However, with the new model, SEO doesn't always equate to leads. Why? What does it look like? This is where the huge shift over the course of time in 2025 really made a big difference. SEO now starts with visibility. Why? Because with the new summaries, the new way the real estate has changed, visibility is happening without traffic because you are showing up anywhere search happens now with SEO. AI summaries, map packs, search engine results pages. It's not just a single list of links. The second step of SEO funnel now is recognition. The next question that's being asked is, do we trust this business enough to actually show it? How do you build trust? It is not by saying on your webpage, we're the most trusted company in this area. It's through consistency over time that slowly shows you are credible, you have authority, and you will consistently show up for your customer base. The next step is the click. You have to earn that action from your customers to show up through those trust signals and a clear differentiation. That is when you are chosen. And then you have the opportunity for that lead to turn the attention to actual business. What does this look like? SEO still fuels the top of all of this, but trust is what's actually driving it. No one effort results in this. It is the combination of consistent efforts across the board. And this is where the mental shift of SEO really has to happen. The shift that Google is prioritizing and is probably taking most of the rest of us a little bit longer to want to grasp. Ranking helps your business. It is a key factor, but recognition and trust is what's converting. Ranking is no longer the primary indicator of SEO success. All right. So now let's talk about what is rewarded in the way that Google is prioritizing searches right now. So SERPs, what SERPs are being rewarded in 2026? That's just jargon insight for what search engine results pages, what links is Google prioritizing right now. Google is rewarding content that helps real people, that uses keywords, but prioritizes experience with the keywords, that prioritizes volume, but make sure that the volume of information you're giving is actually useful to real people. And it is prioritizing brands who are building themselves through credibility and consistency over anonymous sites that no one knows. Again, this all goes back to no one single effort wins anymore. What does this actually look like? Here's the 3 factors that are being heavily analyzed when you look at search results right now as it relates to SEO. Experience, expertise, helpfulness. Experience. Is your information even usable? And can you show that you have the experience to back it? Expertise, are you providing clarity to show how you know this information, or did you rely on AI to give it all to you? And then helpfulness. Are you giving real answers that are consistent to your customer base? These are not just buzzwords. These are signals. I have said it probably for the last year, but clicks are no longer the currency that we are judging search success by. Trust is the currency. And that's hard to quantify. Trust is hard to quantify, but that is truly the currency that's here. So when we talk about experience, expertise, and helpfulness, these are not abstract concepts for Google. They matter because the end result of search has changed. And that's where a lot of this confusion and frustration surrounding search is coming from. So we are really entering the end of this like old search era, as I showed you with this graph and this shift of what this actually looks like. We're entering the end of an era. Historically, search had one primary outcome. You searched, Google gave you links, you clicked a website, you engaged with the business. But now that model did shape everything we measured, but that era is ending. Today, a search doesn't have to end in a click for that search to actually have been successful. Actually, from Google's perspective, that's the case. Because now Google is delivering answers, summaries, explanations, comparisons, sometimes without even sending that user anywhere beyond that initial search page. Visibility does not always equal traffic to your page. That doesn't mean that your business wasn't visible. It simply means that visibility happened before the click happened. Google is saying increasingly that if we can confidently explain what the user wants to know, we will do that. And when Google explains something, it's going to pull that information from sources that it trusts to show that consistency, clarity, and real-world trust signals. So what's being referenced or summarized is now a form of visibility for your business. And this is uncomfortable for those of us, and I say this for myself too. This is uncomfortable for those of us who only want to measure success through traffic numbers. But that just doesn't work the same way anymore. And this trend didn't just start with AI. It's easy in these moments to be like, dang it, AI has messed up our world. This is not supposed to be this way, but this started well before AI came into the picture. Google, for the past 5 years, has been slowly integrating features that changed the way clicks were happening. If it was featured snippets, the like frequently asked questions section, local packs, map packs, these have been reducing clicks to your website for years, but now it's even more just amplified. What AI did was make that reality impossible to ignore. It was always happening. So places from research from sources like Search Engine General, SparkToro consistently show that a large percentage of searches now end without a click. These are called zero-click searches. And it doesn't mean that search is broken. It just means that search is prioritizing answer-driven results versus click-driven results. So the success cannot be measured anymore by did they click. It's defined by did Google trust you enough to show you. And when we accept that clicks aren't the first win anymore, the next question becomes, well, if traffic isn't the goal, then what's driving that if discovery is happening without clicking? SEO used to be about where you ranked, and now it's about how well Google understands you. Search, I love the way Search Engine Journal put this. SEO is evolving from ranking pages to shaping understanding. And this is not coming from an agency. This is coming from an organization whose literal job it is to study how search engines move. And they talk with Google insiders all the time. Even if you're not in marketing, go follow them. The information that they put out is just amazing. So let's talk about AI search, because there is, Alex, I might get on my soapbox here for just a second. I'm going to add you to the stage quick, because I've had this conversation with Alex quite a bit over the last week. There is a lot of misinformation about AI. Is there not?
I've never heard that, Amanda. That's not a consistent trend in every kind of meeting, and even when we were at Interconnect last week.
So much misinformation about AI. So here's the reality. AI search is about influence. It is not about control. You cannot, as much as we would all want to, you cannot control the way that AI search uses your information to control your rankings. And I think this hits a little bit on some of the questions. Like Chandler, you asked the question earlier, how can we be more valuable with AI generated answers? Keywords and redundant terms on sites seem to be filtered past at this point. And you know what? Right on. You are right on with that question. AI systems don't work like Google's traditional ranking algorithms. There is no page one. There is no position one. There is no keyword slotting. AI doesn't line up 10 pretty blue links and decide who wins. It doesn't work this way. Instead, it takes all this information from sources that it's already trusts or have shown trust signals for credibility and synthesizes all of that. Authority determines inclusion here. AI is looking for patterns through consistency. What are some of those patterns? Consistent messaging across your website, your Google business profile, your reviews. Are you producing content? Do other people mention you? Do you have backlinks where you're engaged in other places? When there is consistency, not one and done, when there is consistency in this, AI starts to treat you as a known entity. And that consistency is what builds trust, not just one perfect page. We have a customer who I was just looking over their stuff, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and I could not have been more elated because they have been incredible over the course of the past year of producing personalized content that answers the questions their users are actually asking without a fear of, is this going to take business away from me? What have you? And you know what? They are one of the top ranking results in AI summaries right now for restoration. And I was floored because it's so good. And this is more necessarily than even just what your marketing company can provide to you. There has to be a personalized effort involved in this. The consistency in that is what builds trust, and it rewards stability, not hacks. I want to say it this way. You don't optimize AI like you optimize SEO. You instead build a business that AI can talk confidently about. I probably should have put that on a slide because it feels very powerful for me. But let's take this visual. I'm a big visual person. So, okay. So if AI visibility cannot be controlled and only influenced, And if SEO is about shaping understanding instead of chasing rankings, then the question becomes, well, how then do we build this momentum? Okay, so there's this idea by Jim Collins called the flywheel effect. Now, Jim studied companies and tried to understand why certain companies achieve sustained greatness while others stalled. Okay. And the idea that he came out with this flywheel effect is that greatness is not achieved through one big event, but instead gradually through momentum with small actions. It is a cycle of compounding returns and growth. So here's the visual of Jim Collins' flywheel effect. A lot of marketing advice we like to think of and we chase after the next big thing. So what's the next campaign? What's the next ad? What's the next algorithm? What's the next update? And these are all important things. They are a part of this flywheel effect, but they are not the only thing that builds the momentum. One big push makes me think of like the wheel in The Price is Right. One big push moves that wheel, but eventually that wheel will stop. It's not a consistent momentum. And this is why marketing spikes and drops often feel so frustrating, because we expect one push to keep that wheel spinning. But the flywheel only works when each action feeds the next. It is a cycle. So let's put this in terms of what we talked about earlier. Earlier, I showed you kind of the graph. Let me go back to it in my presentation of what an SEO funnel looks like right now. But how does this affect visibility and momentum and trust that we all want? By instead of it being a line, putting it in the flywheel effect. Every improvement of visibility, recognition, clicks, and leads makes the next improvement easier. A better website experience means more trust. More trust means higher engagement. Higher engagement means stronger signals. Stronger signals mean more visibility, and it compounds on each other. And I think this is really where the power of SEO comes into play. It is not one thing that does it all. Now, hear me loud and clear. You need a solid foundation for all of these things to even work. You do. And websites, things like that, very important. You can't just throw things up there. There has to be strategies surrounding it. But once you get to that point, it is not a single effort. And unfortunately, the number of conversations that I have where we're judging success based on a single effort, if that is how we're evaluating marketing or SEO or the influence, then we're doing it wrong and nobody's going to win. And that's the reality here. So as we move into this, when we talk about SEO metrics that matter, what are those metrics that actually move that flywheel to gain that momentum? And this is, again, where a lot of the frustration comes from. As I mentioned, we're all still measuring SEO the way we did 5 or 10 years ago, primarily through traffic or clicks. And this is exactly why SEO feels so confusing right now, because the metrics that actually matter are the fact that your presence is more important than the raw traffic you are being shown, referenced, and that you're considering. Presence is grown slowly through that flywheel. If someone sees your brand and recognizes it and later searches for you directly through things like mentions, citations, backlinks, authority, if someone finds you later because of those things, then your SEO worked, even if they never clicked the first time. Hopefully that makes sense. And then there's really the authoritativeness in SEO that works by corroboration through things like mentions and citations and people and legitimate sources across multiple sources, a brand search volume that builds the authority and the credibility. These are the strongest signals that everyone is seeing today. When more people search for your business with your brand, Google learns that you're real, that you're recognized, and that you're trusted. brand search is not throwing away money if you're paying for those searches. And even if you're not, it's not throwing away an effort. Brand search is a downstream effect of good visibility and a strong signal that your flywheel is compounding and working. And oftentimes your brand grows before your traffic does. This is why when I meet with companies and we do kind of an overview of, hey, let's get the lay of the land. What's working for you? One of the first things that I always look at is, are you even showing up for your own brand name? If you're not, we've got some bigger fish to fry here. And so that's really important here to look at. See, we've got some good questions coming in. I'm loving these. As a reminder, keep dropping those in. We'll definitely be getting to these shortly. The other thing I want to talk about that almost everyone is seeing, but very few people understand, is that clicks are declining. This is normal. We're hearing it all the time. Clicks are declining. But now look at the right side. What we're actually seeing accounts for this pattern is that clicks are flattening or declining, but brand impressions are rising. And this is not hypothetically. This is showing up repeatedly in Google Search Console data and all the things we're seeing. It's a conceptual representation of what's actually happening in Google and how Google is prioritizing trusted companies over traffic as it relates to clicks. AI answers. The reason we're seeing these declining clicks is because AI answers reduce the need for someone to click. The local map listings are giving options without websites or calls now even. Google is confident enough now to summarize all this data, and visibility is happening earlier and ends earlier sometimes than it really used to. So when brand searches incline, people are seeing you, they're recognizing your name, they're remembering you for later to eventually fuel those brand searches, the offline conversations, reviews, and referrals. What this comes down to is that SEO wins don't always show up as clicks. Marketing is not just about clicks. Sometimes it's about memory for when they need to click in the future. So when someone says to me, well, my traffic is down, so is something wrong with my website? We're going to look at a variety of things to understand that. But usually the answer is no, not necessarily. Instead of looking at your traffic, what we need to do is look at the right signals. Clicks are an outcome. Presence is the strategy here. All right, so let's talk about what does actually win with local SEO. When most people think about local SEO or search engine optimization, they think, well, who's closest probably wins. And proximity, hear me loud and clear, proximity is still weighed very highly, but it's not the only part of the equation. If it were, you'd only see the closest business first all the time, and that's not what's happening. It's not just about how close you are. It's also about the trust signals and how close you are to the searcher. So one of the things that we're talking about and hearing about a lot as a pattern that Google is prioritizing is review velocity. What does this actually mean? What it means is those companies who are getting a consistent number of reviews and close enough are probably going to be prioritized versus the company who sends out one push for a review every few months and gets a bunch in. If you get 30 reviews in 1 month, but none the rest of the year, that does not tell Google that you're a consistent company that people trust. So that's what review velocity means. And reviews are a flywheel accelerant. Google is watching how people interact with your brand to see if people trust the option that you're giving them. So all of these things equate back to your SEO and proximity and how they weigh and play together. So I want to encourage you, as we all think about SEO, to really redefine how you're thinking about it. We think of SEO as search engine optimization, and that is still technically what it means. But what Google is actually doing with their search results, you could instead categorize SEO as search everywhere optimization, because search is no longer just happening on Google. And it's also not the only thing that Google is looking at. It is tied consistently across all platforms where your message is being presented and where people are seeing you. SEO sees all of that. So it signals both to humans and to the algorithms, AI algorithms, Google algorithms, all these things, who you are, what you do, who you serve, and if people like you. Your SEO compounds. Here's a great visual answer to this, or a visual to how this actually works. SEO is no longer just this piece of the pie. It is all of these pieces. It's the same reason now that TikTok videos show up in search results on Google, because sometimes that is where people are finding their answer instead of a click. That's why it's important. I love this visual. SEO sits at the middle, not because it controls everything, but because it is connecting everything here. SEO is no longer a channel. It is a connective tissue. Okay, we are getting close to the end here. I know Alex is priming some questions for me. So I'm going to quickly wrap up these things. So in all of this, it's time to bring it home. Where do we focus in 2026? What should we be prioritizing? This is not the question of where should we spend our money, but instead, where will our money actually compound into that flywheel? Website is number one on this list for a reason. Your website is no longer just a destination. It is a trust validator. 95% of the information that Google is gathering off of your authority is going to come from the information that is on your website. It is the same reason you cannot put on your website, our company provides X, Y, and Z services, and expect Google to trust that you do those services and do them well, and that you should show up for them. It is so much more than that. Your Google business profile, trust here. This is a huge this is a huge signal when we're talking about what's happening and how people trust your business. If your website is your foundation for your authority, then your Google business profile is like your storefront. It's often one of the first things that people see, and engagement here matters more than ever. Consistent engagement, accuracy, activity, making sure it's not a set it and forget it. It's really a living trust signal that AI and Google is going to pull from. Reviews and reputation. This is putting your trustability, your likability on a scale in 2026 to reinforce authority. It's not just about averages, as we talked about review velocity. It's about recency and volume over time. Your reputation compounds, good or bad, and that is a huge trust signal. And then brand clarity. Man alive, this is a soapbox for me. I'm not going to get on here, but here's the reality. Brand clarity affects everything. It affects your AI understanding, your human understanding and trust, your recall, your searches. Brand clarity is helping people understand what you do, who you help, and why you're different without a huge effort. It is the thing that sets you apart from your competitor down the road. It is why your messaging needs to be consistent. In 2026, clarity in your brand is going to beat the cleverness of your strategy. I have seen the companies and walked alongside of them, those who have invested in their brand instead of just their strategy, and they are soaring because of how well they are doing now. Brands that win are not the ones that are louder. they are clearer. The brands that win are the ones that are posting and spending and shouting. That's what we like to think. But instead, it's clear messaging, it's clear service, it's clear expectation, it's clear positioning. It's tying back to all of these earlier points. What is Google prioritizing? Clarity and consistency and authority. AI prefers clarity and authority. Google rewards clarity and authority, and humans choose based on clarity and authority when everything else is noisy. And it feels that way with all the options we have. The clearest option and the most trusted option always feels the safest. So what do you need to stop doing super fast? Stop keyword stuffing. I'm not even going to get into what this means because we're running out of time, but stop thinking if you put a list of words on your website that it automatically means that that you will show up and people will trust you. It is not the case. Stop. Stop chasing SEO hacks or promises. This is where I have seen in my 16 years people waste the most money. Every time you chase a new hack that you hear about or a new promise, your flywheel stops moving and you have to start your momentum all over again. And then stop creating content for volume versus quality. Now, hear me loud and clear. Volume does matter. Google does want to see how often you are engaging, but your content needs to have enough quality to show that you are giving true authority to what's there. Don't let your quantity of content dilute the authority of your content. Quality builds trust, and volume without value just builds noise. And that's not rewarded. That is what we're seeing. So what does this all boil down to? Do not be overwhelmed. 2026 isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things and being consistent. Do what you can and be consistent in it. When you align your website, your reputation, your presence, your messaging around trust and clarity, your flywheel starts moving and search will start working for you again. So I mentioned on here, I have to give credit where it's due. These are all the incredible sources that we pulled research from today to back what we were already seeing. And, I want to make sure to point that out. While we move into some Q&A time, I'm just going to pop up on the screen that we do offer free consultations and free audits. If anyone, this is like seriously no pressure. We will literally just tell you, hey, how are your brand signals working? That we can, take a look and understand what's happening for you. So I'm just going to leave this up here while we chat a little bit. Alex, I know you have been fielding some questions. I've been seeing this. So tell me where you want to start.
I think a great place to start would be with Lee's question. He came in and he asked it right at the start. And that is, how can companies be more efficient when managing their sites? What are some tools and resources that they can look to and use to just be more practical with their time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a really great question. Efficiency doesn't always look the same for every single company, but efficiency is understanding, I think, starting with the foundational question of what do we do best and who are we trying to reach? Sometimes we overcomplicate what messages we're trying to put out on websites specifically. And then it ends up just being like this lack of clarity and hodgepodge of information that nobody knows what to do anything with. So I think being the most efficient often has to start with the foundational questions. What's the phrase? If you're a jack of all trades, you're a master at none. I think you had some extra thing to add on. What was the rest of it?
It's something to the fact that it's good to at least still have skills.
Yes, good to have
not
skills.
Be totally pigeonholed without anything at all.
Right. But we also don't especially with our businesses, you can't speak and reach every audience. So being efficient has to understand what's your goal, who are you trying to reach, and what are you trying to do through that. Hopefully that answered that question.
And then Chandler had a great question about how they can use AI content, or sorry, how they can make content more valuable uh, over AI generated content and answers.
Yeah, absolutely. So I go back to the same thing here, Chandler. How can you make your content more valuable than AI generated answers? This is a really great question. And it starts here again with consistency and authority. So beyond just, I think it's understanding what sort of questions are people actually asking and how can I give them information that actually puts this in a really healthy way for them, gives them the actual answers, if that makes sense. So it's less about, hey, we have to have the perfect answer and more about, do people care about what the information that I'm actually putting out there? So poll your customers what things do they want to know, and then tailor your content strategy around those things. Now, it is very important that in that content, you do put keywords and you do use, searchable terms, but they need to be implemented in a way that still works well for the customers, if that makes sense. You still got to include backlinks. You still got to, link to certain areas of your site to continue to build the authority. And when you can marry those two strategies, that's really where the true magic happens.
That is some interesting insight there. I tried to have a crack at Steven's question, and companies that pay for reviews, do they get flagged as a fake review? How does that affect the company's visibility?
Yeah, this is such a great question. I'm going to call this, it's like what we would like to view as like a quick win strategy. There are companies that pay for reviews. Yes. But I think it's important to note that while that might initially boost maybe the visibility or the ranking score of that company, the truth reveals itself. So eventually Google does notice. And we worked with companies who are like, my competitors are literally paying to get reviews, so therefore they show up. Well, you know what happens to those people eventually? Somebody notices that something's off and they start getting reported. And eventually those profiles get suspended. So what was a quick win for them ultimately ended up being the thing that got them removed altogether. So yes, they might not always get flagged initially as fake reviews, but I've seen it where eventually they do. And that's where I say, we can always do our part. If you know that you are getting a fake review or your competitor, if that's a fake review, go in and report it. That's when we start to see movement happen, is when we tell Google, hey, this isn't real. I don't prioritize seeing this. And that's how they're building authority.
Yeah, it almost devalues the trust that they've tried to build and ruins the whole plan altogether.
Absolutely.
Ashley was wondering, sorry, I'm looking at a couple of different places. But for brands that are looking to stand out, perhaps they exist within another company or there's numerous versions of that company in their same local area, what can they do to help stand out and be noticed in their local areas?
Excellent question. So I'll start by saying, and I think we usually see this with franchises, right? Franchises have a great initial authority with Google because they're recognized as a large company, right? There's usually locations across the nation. Where that gets really hard is when you do have someone in your city. This is where your brand becomes your selling point. Your culture becomes your selling point. You have to go beyond your services to show this is who we are. People choose based on who they trust. And when you can show that you've built something beyond your services that's beneficial to your searcher, that's where the magic happens. It sounds so conceptual, I understand, but you can't rely on your services to be your differentiator. Depending on your business, if you're a restoration company, everybody does the exact same thing. So what is it that's setting you apart? Is it your customer experience? Is it the culture that you have for your employees? Is it the way that you engage with your community and the relationships you build? That's how you stand apart. It is not a quick process. It takes time. But that is what I would say.
That sounds like it kind of builds on the consistency, and just being reliable within your own community can help increase your visibility.
Absolutely.
Rebecca has a great question.
I know we're running out of time, but I think we can address, I'm just calling real quick. I know you've got 2 more questions I think that you want to note. I do just want to quickly call out here for those of you who are still on. We already have our topic up for next month. You can join us next month on February 18th for called The Hidden Cost of Doing Nothing. This is something we hear all the time, and I think it's important to address maybe the misconceptions that come when we say, whatever, I'm just going to throw up my hands and not do anything because I don't want to do what Google says. And you don't have to do what Google says, but let's talk about what that actually looks like. So I'm just going to throw this up here while we keep chatting.
That is perfect. Rebecca, that is a fantastic question. We do offer different levels of service. I think that would be a conversation we could dive into deeper in a one-on-one consultation. Hazel, if you could drop the link for that in there, that would be fantastic. And then, Shanae, how can smaller locally owned restoration companies compete with large franchises in terms of trust? What can they do to build their visibility?
If I had a dime for every time I was asked this question, I would be a very rich woman. And rightfully so, because this is a real thing. Simply put, you don't compete because you're different. And that's, again, where you go back to your brand. So part of my backstory is I grew up in a restoration household. My dad owned a franchise of one of the larger restoration franchises across the country now. And I loved growing up in that franchise world, having that experience. But I will tell you that now, having worked in my career with so many independents, there are differences to who you're going to choose. And part of that then just becomes, how do you compete with that larger franchise? Well, you don't, because you're probably targeting a different type of customer, someone who wants a very personalized level of service versus a very large company. There are so many factors that come into play with this. Is this a private job versus a insurance job? All those things. Sometimes you just don't have control, but there is definitely ways to stand out here. And I think, again, where we've seen this be successful is through the culture and the brand that your company is building. You do not have to be large to build a known culture and a known brand in your area. And I think, again, it takes a lot of time, but is well worth the effort. And quite frankly, I think when you have a good brand and a good culture, it just makes your job more fun. So, and people notice that.
I mean, even at an employee level, that attracts employees to work for you. That attracts so much attention, and it's the right kind of positive attention that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Do you have any other questions in here? I know we're over time. We've still got a good number of people, but I want to be mindful of who we've got here.
I think we've tackled all the major questions that were in there.
Cool.
Would you have any kind of last pieces of takeaway, any advice that people should know as they're leaving?
I think it's important that I just want to encourage you again and again, we have to shift our mindset about SEO. It really is no longer how it used to work. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing it in-house or you've hired someone to help you analyze these things. If we don't shift our mindset, we will always be setting ourselves or our company or whoever up to fail, because that's just no longer the way the world works with it. So it's a process. It's all a process, and it's not quick, but it is worth it when you take the time and effort to do that.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Yeah. So for everyone, we will go ahead and wrap up our time. We hope you'll consider, if you've got questions, you can always scan this QR code. We've dropped the link in the chat to schedule some time to chat with us. Listen, when we say no pressure, we really mean no pressure. In case you can't tell, Alex and I just like to be in relationship with people and just talk to people. So if you've got questions, please contact us. We're happy to meet with you further. If you're registered for today, you'll also get this in a recording and some kind of recap so that you can go back and watch this again. And again, we hope that you will consider joining us next month when we talk about the hidden cost of doing nothing. So thanks again, everyone, for joining our webinar today. We will see you in February.